The first time I hear the laughter, I'm standing on the riverbank where the town forgets to end. The water is low, a dark ribbon with stars caught in it like fish that learned how to keep still. Paperbark trees lean toward their reflection. The air smells like iron and eucalyptus and the sweet rot of fallen leaves. A night bird makes a sound that should be a call and is. Then children laughing, not close, not far. Across the water where the scrub thickens and the ground turns red, and the old people say, "We don't go there at night." It isn't ordinary laughter. Ordinary laughter has edges. It fades, embarrassed by its own joy. This laughter carries like light that refuses to dim. It doesn't sound cruel, which would be easier to ignore. It sounds like play, like recess on the first day of spring, like the moment before you realize you're bleeding. That's what hooks us, not fear. The memory of who we were, sharpened and thrown back across the river like a skipping stone. Everyone in our town knows the story. We don't agree on the number. Some say 8, some say 12. Children once crossed on a dare to find the place where the ground hums. The scrub rearranged itself behind them. Trackers followed little prints until the prints climbed a tree and never came down. In the first week, laughter drifted home on the wind at sundown. Parents called out names. The bush answered with giggles and silence. The elders told them, "Do not call again. Do not teach it the names it does not already know." I used to think it was a story to keep kids out of trouble. I used to let my mother's warnings slide out the back of my head like rain off a good roof. But warnings aren't for what you can imagine. Warnings are for what you can't. My name is Maya, 17. On a Friday night in late dry, the heat still hanging on like an argument, I stood with 3 friends and a cousin where the road stops pretending to be a road. Eli is my cousin. He hides nerves behind jokes and the jokes behind more jokes. Tash moved to town last year and talks to her phone like it's a person. She swears she's going to film something no one can ignore and make enough money to leave. Noah is quiet, born here, walked these tracks barefoot before he knew the word track. He listens when Auntie June talks, and she talks to him like he's an old soul in a young jacket. Me, my flaw is simple. I hear a door and I can't rest until I know what's on the other side. That's what my mother calls it, a door where a wall should be. We weren't meant to be here. We were supposed to be at a house party where a Bluetooth speaker argued with itself, and a boy told me I was pretty like he was reading it from a note he found on the ground. We left. Eli said the night smelled better by the river. He wasn't wrong. Auntie June had told us not to walk out here after sunset. She's not our blood, but she's everyone's auntie. She keeps knowledge like a safe, heavy and patient. She said the other side belongs to stories older than our grandparents, and the stories don't care that you didn't mean it. She said, leave your names in your mouth. Keep your eyes where they belong. If you hear laughter across water in the dark, go home. Do not count. Do not answer. Walk away like boredom is your shield. We came anyway. Maybe it's the footy kids camping, Tash said, though her voice tripped on its own certainty. Her phone lifted, already composing captions. The blue light on her face made her look like she'd swallowed a chip of sky. It's after midnight, Noah said. No one's camping there, not them. Then what is it? Eli asked. Because a question is how you pretend you haven't already decided. On the water, the stars shifted. It was nothing. My brain poured meaning into it and drank it back down. The laughter came again, closer this time. It didn't echo like sound should echo here. It arrived without a road. It tickled the insides of our ears. It said a name, not mine, not Eli's, not anyone who belonged to us. A name from the old story, a syllable I'd heard whispered under breath by women who don't like to say it loud. Do not, Noah said, not to us, to himself. Then to us, if you hear your name, what if it's someone hurt? Eli said, what if it's a kid who? Then the men and women who know this place will go, Noah said gently. We are not them. The frogs shut up like someone pinched the night's tongue. A small wind moved in 3 directions at once. I'm going, Tash said, less stubborn than afraid of being ordinary. We can stick to the edge, keep each other in sight, just to the other bank, we don't go far. She held her phone like a torch and a talisman. If there's nothing, there's nothing. If there is something, we can show people. Noah looked at me. He didn't shake his head. He didn't nod. He wore the face of someone counting broken rules in a place that keeps a ledger. I don't know if I believed the story. I don't know if I wanted to disprove it or paint my name on its edge. Curiosity feels noble until you point it where it doesn't belong. We took off our shoes and stepped into the water. The river was cold in the way of living things, cold that pays attention. Mud sucked at our feet like a small hand telling us to stay. Stones were slick. Tash held her phone high. Eli laughed like laughter was a rope you could throw ahead. Noah went last, eyes on his feet, lips moving with words I couldn't hear. I wanted to ask. I didn't. Halfway across, the laughter stopped. Our own splashes sounded wrong, too loud, like we were stomping in a church. The opposite bank rose with a low, patient kind of height. Paperbarks lifted pale strips of skin and hung them like flags. The smell changed, less leaf, more dust. The air felt older, as if it had been breathed by something we wouldn't understand. We stepped onto the other side, and the sound returned, not from where sound returns. A giggle slid down a trunk. Soft patter crossed our left shoulders. The back of my neck prickled, and I swallowed the urge to turn and say, I'm here. Don't say your names, Noah said under his breath. I wasn't going to, Eli said, already saying it in his throat. We climbed the bank. The ground made that dry sound dirt makes when it hasn't seen rain for too long. Trees here are the same as trees there until you're between them. Then they aren't. Branches felt closer. Spaces deeper. The blue went darker. Just along the river, Tash said, more to the phone than us. Not far. Not far is far, Noah said. That's how this place works. We walked shoulder close without meaning to. The laughter faded, returned, moved like a thing that didn't have to move through space. We saw no children. We saw their aftermath, flattened grass where bodies had rolled, and a tiny bare footprint pressed into damp earth as clean as a signature. It pointed not toward or away, but up. The heel and ball and little toes arced toward a tree trunk like the foot had walked out from the ground, planted itself against bark, and kept going. At my height. Then higher. Then, out of reach, Eli swore softly. The words sounded tame here. Tash filmed the print. Her camera gave a small mechanical sigh like it had thoughts. She whispered, "Oh my God!" "Put it down," Noah said. "Film the ground if you need to film." "Why?" "Because that's the only part that won't ask for anything back." We passed a ring of stones the size of a child's hand with small stick crosses laid between. A game, a warning, a marker. I didn't ask. Asking opens doors. Ahead, a length of twine knotted into cat's cradle hung between 2 branches at wrist height, except the branches were taller than Eli's head. The twine swayed though the air was still. The knots were complex and easy the way good traps are. Eli reached out by reflex. Noah brushed his hand away. "Don't play back." "I wasn't," Eli said. "Lying on a scale this country doesn't weigh." At first the path followed the river. Then the river followed us. Then the river was behind and ahead and to both sides. Water sounded like it came from inside the trees. When we turned to see how far we'd come, town lights were gone. There was only scrub and dark, and a ribbon of something shining where no river had any business shining. I kept my eyes low. I watched Noah's feet. He stepped like the land could forgive him if he placed his soles properly. His toes touched before he committed weight, as if checking for a heartbeat. The laughter changed. It got younger. Babies don't laugh like older kids. Their laughter is a sneeze of delight. That sound arrived with another smack. Smack, smack, jump rope on hard ground. "There's no path here," Tash said, as if paths owed us an introduction. "You hear that?" Eli whispered. "Yes," I said. "It's worse to lie to fear than to admit you hear it breathing." We turned a corner where there was no corner and came to a clearing, not a field, a place where trees decided to stand farther apart for a while. The moon painted the earth in soft white that made the red dirt blush. In the center, shapes, a rope swing without a tree to anchor it, moving in still air. A tire half buried, though no road had donated it. A teeter-totter with one end high and the other hovering an inch above ground like it was thinking about touching. A circle of chalk on the dirt, white lines drawn with something crushed. Ash, stone, bone, marks like the games we drew at school to hop between. Inside the circle, small handprints pressed outward, each turned a different direction like little suns. I expected terror. I felt homesick, not for my room or my mother's laugh, though those followed. I was homesick for being a child who thought play belonged to her and not the other way around. The rope swing moved. It made the sound rope makes when it rubs a branch, except there was no branch. The jump rope smacked again 3 times, then stopped. The sound wasn't rope. It was tongues clicking softly behind teeth. A delighted tusk, 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 counting. A giggle, another. They overlapped like braids, not pale sheet ghosts. Voices the land remembered and could pull from its pockets. I heard my own younger giggle buried in there. Eli at 8 when he fell off a bike and tried not to cry because I was watching. My mother's thinner, older, wrapped around a song she used to hum. "Don't say anything," Noah said. He was sweating quietly without moving much. "If it speaks with your voice, don't answer. If it asks you to play, you say no with your feet." "What does that mean?" "Hugo!" "What about the kids?" Tash whispered. "The ones from the story." He didn't look at her. "Some kids the land keeps in its pocket. You don't empty another person's pocket." We stood in a playground that had decided to exist without equipment and tried not to be interesting. It's hard work for people like us. We're eager to sparkle, even when something in the dark likes sparkles too much. Something tugged the hem of my shirt. No hand there when I looked, which did mean there hadn't been. A brush like static, that push-pull of what wants to know you and wants you to know it. "Hey," Eli said softly, half a laugh stuck in his throat. "Stop, little rat!" He reached down without thinking to grab the invisible hand his skin told him was there. His fingers met air. He laughed again, uncertain. Something tugged his shoelace instead, a small firm pull that undid the knot like a parent at a door. He bent to tie it. As he bent, something laughed above him, not from a branch, from the air. Another footprint stepped onto the nearest tree trunk, higher than my head, clean and perfect. Then another higher still, tiny handprints above them, too many. "Enough," Noah said, soft as he could without lying. "We go back." "Back how?" Tash asked. "Everything is wrong. We make right shapes. We walk in our steps," he said, and the words sounded old in his mouth, given to him to keep safe. "We didn't get the chance." Between one breath and the next, the game changed. The laughter stopped sounding like day. It went lower, not deeper, lower to the ground, like what laughs when it's hiding behind something and will show you its teeth if you crouch. The rope swing stilled. The teeter-totter sighed and settled. The chalk circle smudged itself, fingers passing over rules, changing them. Then it spoke, not one voice, Many, not words I know, words that sleep in the earth and wake for rain. They slid over us, weighed us with attention. The smallest of them made a sound like the start of a giggle, like a swallow undecided between laugh and sob. Eli's head turned so fast his neck popped. "Did you hear?" "Don't," Noah said. "Don't finish that sentence. It belongs to something else." "I heard." Eli stopped himself, breathed through his nose, smiled like a kid working out long division without paper. "I'm bored," he told the ground, as if boredom could be a spell. It was nearly funny, almost brave. The sound of fingers padding thighs in impatience came from everywhere. Pat, 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 a game with no bodies to hold it. "Maya," a voice said behind my left ear in my own childhood voice. For one heartbeat I knew, as plainly as you know your room in the dark, that if I turned I would see myself at 7 with mosquito bites on my knees and juice on my chin, looking up at me kindly. I didn't turn. I looked at the smallest thing, a line of ants carrying glitter that was only mica. I said nothing. Iron filled my mouth. Tash wasn't as good at saying nothing. "Who's there?" she whispered, then pressed her lips together like she could force the words back in. Silence changed, not empty, listening. Paperbark leaves shifted without wind. The low didgeridoo growl you sometimes hear in the distance at festivals came from the earth, not a player. It vibrated up through our souls. The hairs on my arms rose and didn't know whether it was fear or awe. When you're on the wrong side of a thing too big for you, the trick is to become small on purpose. I learned that later, or right then, and have been reaching back ever since. That night Noah carried the knowing. He crouched, lowered his head, pressed fingers to dirt like checking a wrist for pulse. He whispered, "We are sorry. We didn't ask. Can we go home?" Home is a good word when you're lost, if you mean it right. Not a place to own, a place to be allowed. The rope swing twitched once, like someone let go. The teeter-totter bumped the ground and stayed. The chalk circle broke itself into nothing the way a cloud gives itself back to air. Laughter faded like a game called off. Attention loosened. It didn't leave, it looked elsewhere. "Stand up slow," Noah said. "Leave your words behind, walk in your feet." "How?" Tash whispered. "Nothing is where it was. We make it where it was. We walk backward to the river. Heels into your own steps. Don't look right or left. If the voices ask, we don't answer. If they count, we don't. If they play, we don't. We make a shape that doesn't interest them." We stood, we set our heels in the last place our toes had been. It felt wrong in my bones the way breaking a habit feels wrong even when the habit is bad. It asked for trust. We stepped, heel to toe, heel to toe. The clearing didn't try to hold us with rope. It watched. Counting sounds whispered at the edge of our ears and stuck like cobweb. Behind, ahead, inside our own steps, the soft thud of little feet tried on our size. I kept my eyes down. A beetle tripped over a pebble and corrected itself with dignity. I put my heel in my own step. Eli was fine until it said his name, not the full one, the little one his father used when Eli's Lego tower swayed and wouldn't let anyone sleep until a hand steadied it. That name, the one you stop hearing when you learn how to keep your face still. It said it with a laugh folded around it like a napkin around bread. He flinched. His foot missed. He looked. He didn't mean to. The body keeps its own memories. His shoulders turned a degree. His eyes cut aside. In that motion, he offered something up. I saw what took him, and I didn't. The dark leaned. A shadow separated from a larger shadow and met his shape. He didn't scream. His breath left on a soft O that sounded like the start of a laugh. Where he stood, his footprints doubled and then weren't. On the nearest tree, a wet mark like a small hand pressed high, happy. It slid higher than we could reach. I thought of his mother's hair, him holding his little brother's hand crossing the street. How he always ate the burnt toast so no one else had to. Wrong thoughts when the land is doing its work. They make you interesting in the worst way. Don't stop, Noah said, voice flat with effort. Maya, Tash with me. Tash made a sound like tearing fabric. She looked at the space where Eli had been. Her phone fell into dust. The screen stayed lit, blue like a cut. Her fingers reached to pick it up. Noah shook his head. She let it lie. We walked, heels into toes, heels into toes. Behind us, a little voice counted. 1, 2, 3. 1, it stopped because we did not answer. The ground changed underfoot the way a sentence changes with a comma. The air turned from old heat to new cool, the kind that comes up off water even when the day has been stupid hot. There, Noah said, the word sounded like rescue, not victory. The river's breath touched our shins before water did. He didn't let us turn. Not yet. We walked backward into the river. Cold took our ankles, calves. Mud tried to slip us. We set our heels where our toes had been and didn't think about things that use mud as a door. Stars in the water wobbled and held. Something trailed my ankle like a ribbon. I didn't kick. Halfway across, the laughter began again, softer and more interested than angry. The voices said names of games, not ours, chants from languages not taught to us and not needing us. They threaded my mother humming into Eli's father calling. They braided all the noise we ever made into a rope. I did not hold it. On our bank, Auntie June stood with her hands by her sides like holding them out would make the night think she was taking something. She didn't call. She didn't step into the water. She stood in her power quietly like an anchor. When our heels found the shallows and then mud and then edge, she spoke. Eyes down, she said. Don't take anything with you. We obeyed. Whatever clung, dust that belonged elsewhere, a curl of bark caught in a cuff, stayed in the river. We climbed. We stood on the town side under moonlight that doesn't ask questions. Only then did I look up. Auntie June's face was the face you make when you keep too many things in your mouth so they don't fall out. Not surprised, not at peace. A woman who knows what certain nights do to certain people and has learned to keep her spine straight while watching. "Where is Eli?" she asked flat. I opened my mouth. Nothing came. Tash made the small sound that can be a sob and wasn't ready yet. Noah shook his head once, no, and again, yes. Auntie June knew both answers. "Do not go back for him tonight," she said. "Do not say his name here. You will teach a thing to use it." She looked past us at the river, at the black ribbon that carries stars away. "Sit. Put your faces toward the town. You belong to it until morning." We sat. If you've never listened to a river with your back to it, you don't know how much noise a river makes remembering people. The didgeridoo sound in the ground went quiet. Frogs started again, 1, then 3, then a chorus that said we are alive and that's enough for tonight. A breeze moved on its own business. Somewhere across the water, the soft smack of jump rope kept time, then didn't. We kept our faces toward home. We didn't speak names. When my mother arrived, because of course Auntie June had sent for her, she put her hand on my shoulder, and I didn't shrug it off like I do when I want to be older faster. I put my hand over hers. We sat that way until the sky pulled on a paler shirt. Birds began their ridiculous morning argument. A Ute groaned toward the worksite where someone would be told to go back and come later. Dawn doesn't apologize for what the night did. It makes a list. By late morning, men and women who know how to walk these places were out there. They didn't take us. They didn't take police at first. They went as you go when you will not be hurried. They came back when ready and said what you think. Nothing, not hopeless. Whether there is nothing for us to carry home. The old story has a new name in it now, or it does. Names are not the point. The point is that the land is alive and keeps what it keeps. News traveled like news does in small places. Before sunset, people brought foil-covered plates to Eli's mother's house she would not eat. A thermos of tea sat untouched. Tash sat on my porch with her phone off for the first time since I met her. Her hands didn't know what to do without a rectangle. Noah didn't sleep. He sat with his grandparents until moths began their nightly war with the porch light, and they turned the light off because they are kind to small beings drawn to wrong places. When night fell again, the laughter didn't come. The river worked, trees breathed, the town made town sounds. The silence wasn't a mercy, it was a statement. In the days after, people went and stood at the river and didn't cross. Someone painted a sign that didn't need painting, no trespass after dark. The paint shone new against old wood like a child's drawing of a sign. Auntie June unfurled a thin knot smile and said, "The river can read without letters." Tash tried to upload the little she'd filmed because habit is a second heart. The footage showed what we saw and nothing anyone would believe. The print walking up the trunk looked like a trick. The rope swing moving without a branch looked like a clever edit. The sound came through tinny and almost funny. Laughter loses its teeth when you trap it. She deleted it. Weeks later, she set her phone down like a candle on the riverbank and left it there without looking back. There were searches, helicopters, dogs, volunteers who came because the idea of a child gone sits wrong in the throat. The dogs wouldn't go past halfway. No one blamed them. Helicopter shadows mapped over scrub in shapes stories don't worry about. Volunteers trampled edges of what we saw and didn't see and came back with burrs on socks and sad eyes. A day after the official search wound down into paperwork my mother drove me to the river without saying where we were going. We stood where we always stand. She unwrapped a small bundle, a metal toy car, scuffed yellow with one bad wheel. The kind Eli would have rolled along the cracks in our back steps when we were 6 and 7 and 8. "We found it under the couch," she said. "It's not ours. The house keeps things that aren't ours sometimes." She stepped to the edge and placed the toy in the water like putting a child to sleep. The current took it, not fast, not slow. The river lifted a chin to taste the weight and let it go. We said nothing. Across, a breeze moved the paper barks. A strip of skin fell with the lazy grace of things released at their own pace. It landed on the water and floated like a small boat. For a second too long, I thought I saw little hands press into a trunk far above where any child should reach. Then I stopped thinking. Life kept moving and didn't. I started doing small things differently. I didn't step on ant roads. If a beetle flailed upside down, I nudged it upright with a leaf. When I dropped crumbs at the river for birds, I didn't look to see if wet fingers took them. I counted my breaths when afraid and stopped counting when the world tried to count along. At night, when wind came from the wrong direction, I put my eyes on the smallest thing, a crack in the paint like a creek, a thread making a dust delta on the sill. I asked to be let alone. Some nights it worked. Some nights it didn't, and I heard the distant smack of a jump rope hitting a floor that wasn't in my house. People asked what happened, not with microphones, with faces. We said what we could without teaching the wrong thing to listen. We went where we shouldn't have. The land did what it does. We came back. One didn't. You can't file that, but you can fold it into a town's bones. One morning before school, I woke to a mark on my window. Not dew, not my hand, a small handprint, the fat pads of fingers, the palms arch, not high, very high. Outside there's nothing to stand on, no overhang, no branch, dry as chalk, almost too faint to notice if you didn't know. I watched until the sun took it. Kindness. It could have stayed and changed the way I breathed forever. At lunch, I told Noah. He looked at me and passed me, so I couldn't see his eyes change. "Auntie says sometimes the place lanes for a while," he said. "If it has your shape, it keeps thinking about your shape. It doesn't mean it wants to eat you. It means it remembered you. We aren't the only ones who remember." "That doesn't make it better," I said. "Or worse." He nodded, content with an answer that didn't fix anything. "Auntie says the land doesn't want to scare you. It wants you to listen." For a while, people wanted to do something big, build a fence, put a lock on the river, write a magic sign. Auntie June listened and didn't laugh. "You can put a fence up for your heart," she said. "Sometimes that works too." I asked her once, not with a voice you can catch and write down, what we did wrong and how to make it right. She said we were born into a world that tells us everything is for us, and that's a hard habit to break. She said sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is become forgettable. "If you must cross," she said, "ask. Give something you love with your feet, not your hands. Lower your eyes. Don't name. Don't count. If it laughs with your laugh, let it go past you like a breeze. Say thank you without your mouth. Come back before the place finishes counting you." It sounded like nonsense until I tried it, walking past a certain stand of paperbarks at dusk and feeling the lightest pressure lift from the back of my neck. Like being released from a game you didn't want to play and didn't know how to quit politely. Months slid by and didn't. Grief in a small town makes time behave like gum on hot pavement. Stretch too far, snap back. One day I ate a mango that tasted like an apology. One night I dreamed of skipping rope until the rope turned to a snake and slid away, and I was grateful for a terrible dream that ended itself. Sometimes I think I hear him in the laugh across the water, the notch voice that is all voices at once. Not distinctly, not like a hook using his name. More like the way you hear your own name in a crowded room and know it was said even if it wasn't for you. It's worst on windless nights when paperbark peels and shows clean skin. And when the river goes still and gives back every star, and you think you could walk across that brightness and not sink. And you remember how easily a person steps where they shouldn't when something beautiful calls. The night before I left for the city to start a job that would not change the size of the world, I went to the river with Noah, Tash, and Auntie June. No speeches, no crowd. We poured water from a bottle back into water, which is silly unless you know it is. We said thank you without our mouths. We kept our eyes down and then up and then down. Across, something giggled. Not cruel, not kind. It was what it was. Tash had a small bundle. A string for Cat's cradle she used to carry in year 7 when she had no one to talk to and learned to make ladders with loops. She held it, set it on our side of the river, not an offering, like returning a library book. "You don't have to," I began. "I know," she said. "I don't want to carry it. Let the land remember me without it." Noah smiled in that small way of his, like a lizard blinking. "We'll come back," he said, "not to fix anything, to sit on the right side and listen. That's enough." A wind came from where wind doesn't come. It touched our faces like a teacher's hand over the heads of kids who didn't answer and didn't pretend to know. If you're waiting for a neat ending, I can't sell you one. These stories don't do tidy. We are guests. Guests say thank you. Guests do not rearrange the furniture. The bush is not a haunted house waiting to jump with a sheet over its head. It is a living memory that will outlast this century and the next. Sometimes it is hungry for the sound of play. Sometimes it is lonely for the weight of small feet. Sometimes it is neither, and we make it both with our words. Here is what I know. The river at night is a mirror that remembers. The other side belongs to stories that do not look for us and do not mind us as much as we think. If you go, ask. If you hear, listen. If you look, lower. If you want, give with your feet, not your hands. If you are seen, be small. If your childhood calls from the scrub, do not go to tuck it in. Let it sleep where it sleeps. Every so often, someone new arrives, hears the old story, laughs into their hand. They walk to the water at night with someone they shouldn't have brought. On those nights I do what I can. I put my face toward town. I keep my eyes down. I hold the smallest thing I can find, a pebble, a moth wing, a strand of hair, and I ask the place to be patient. I am not always heard. I am not always ignored. On good nights, the laughter fades without taking anything. On bad nights, the trees at dawn have little handprints far above where any child should have reached. Once, months after I moved away, my phone buzzed at 3 in the morning. An unknown number, 3 words, "Come play, Maya." No dots, no follow-up. I stared until my breath remembered how. I set the phone face down like covering a mirror in a house of mourning. I looked at the smallest thing in the room, a crumb, a thread, and asked for the freedom to ignore the invitation. The fridge hummed. A train passed. Cities do their own version of this. Not better, just crowded. In the morning, the message had unsent itself, or the phone swallowed it, or I dreamed a text. Under my apartment window, 3 stories up, a faint chalk mark curved on the brick like a small smile from a hand that wasn't there. It rained. The mark washed away. The bricks didn't care. I poured water into a glass, poured a little on the floor, wiped it up because I know how to do 2 things at once: live where I live and remember where I am a guest. We call them the children who never returned because that's how you talk about absence without opening your throat too wide. But sometimes, when the wind is right, I think maybe the story is about those of us who did return and learned to carry the thin places under our ribs without pointing at them in the dark. Maybe return is a shape you make on purpose. Maybe being allowed to leave is a blessing disguised as a quiet. If you stand at a river one night and hear them on the other side, the giggles, the hushes, the slap of rope, you might think joy lives across the water and calls you like a friend from a party you can't resist. You will be wrong. Joy doesn't call like that. That sound belongs to something older that is neither for you nor against you. It is doing what the world did before you and will do after you, telling itself stories while the stars watch and the water remembers and the paper bark peels back its skin and hangs it to dry. Do not answer, do not count, do not say your name. If you can't help yourself, if your feet begin to move, if your mouth starts shaping wrong words, ask for patience, not safety. Ask for smallness, not power. Ask to be boring enough for the bush to forget you. Walk backward. Put your heels where your toes were. Make shapes the land recognizes as good manners. If you carry anything that isn't yours, set it down. If you took anything, give it back. And when dawn comes and the birds start to argue and the river's face goes from black to blue to whatever color you can't name without borrowing, and the laughter across the water quiets like kids called home for breakfast, sit for a while. Put your face toward town. Let the land forget you. Say thank you without your mouth. That's the story, and not even close. The rest belongs to the places that keep it. The land will be what it has always been. We are the ones who change, if we are lucky, in time. If we are not, if we step where we should not, we become handprints high on trunks that people see at dawn and pretend not to, because pretending can be respect too when you don't have the right words. Once seen, it does not let you go. Not a threat. A sentence with no punctuation, running under bark, under water, under the road, under our feet, into whatever we will be after we forget ourselves for a while.